Welcome to Yacht Crew Vlogs, where we tell the stories of those in the yachting industry. A behind-the-scenes look that discovers the individuals in the industry, their history, their passions, and what inspires them to do what they do. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Yacht Crew Vlogs right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I am your host, and today I have a very special edition of Yacht Crew Vlogs. I am highlighting another fellow woman in yachting media. And that's really exciting for me because there's not a lot of us out there. And those of us that are out there, it's nice to sort of get together and find out for inspiration and you know, just what makes us tick. So I'd like to introduce you all to Michele Goldsmith. She is from Soundings Trade only in the US of A. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, Ria?
Good, good. And a lovely background. Where is that background from?
Porto Cervo, Sardinia.
Lovely, lovely. Well,
Yeah.
where are you located right now?
I'm in Chicago. I'm based in Chicago. I moved here for a job and everything is a direct flight, so I stayed. Great city, great food, great entertainment, beautiful architecture, and I can go anywhere without connecting flights.
Nice. Well, tell us a little bit about you. Where were you born? Where were you raised? Sort of what were you looking to do as a kid, aside from becoming, I don't know, a superhero?
I was raised in Rhode Island, which is in New England, about an hour south of Boston, about 2 hours, 3 hours north of New York. I was raised by, my father was in manufacturing. Mom had actually worked for Mademoiselle magazine in New York and wound up working with Dad. They were in the marine business. I'm actually the third generation of my family that has worked in manufacturing in the marine industry. And really active family. My dad was an All-American hockey player. I was an avid figure skater, competitive figure skater, and then turned pro before I went to college. So it was an active childhood. We had a boat, spent a lot of time on a sailboat. The whole family boated. My uncles, aunts, everybody had boats. So it was an active family.
So it sounds like both the media and the boating, I mean, it's a natural conclusion for you to be where you are right now.
Yeah, it was, you know, it was a funny journey for me because I had no intentions of going into media. I was really in manufacturing. I ran manufacturing plants for the operation side of manufacturing plants for a decade. I had been in the fitness business beforehand, running, you know, all of the fitness programming for a chain of 22 health clubs. And at the same time that my clubs were sold, my father needed an operations director. By then, the business was owned by a group of men out of New York that were supplying the resins for the plastics that he was making. And they said, well, you're a woman and you have no experience, but you have the right last name, so we'll give you 30 days. And 10 years later, I left them. So I really thought I was going to stay on the component side of the business. I was on the component side of the business for over 25 years.
Wow. And so what was that special thing that took you from component side of the business over to the media aspect?
It was a combination of things. So I had always done marketing. So my degree from university is in fine arts. I'm a painter. So I've always had an artistic background. I was always doing some form of art. So I'm a visual thinker. That's part of my DNA. And everywhere that I went, so I left my father's company after 10 years and I went to the electrical side of the business, which moving from plastics to electrical was a massive change. And I had some reps that liked to do a little teasing on me and putting me in rooms with, you know, one was a rocket scientist / a marine engineer asking me about microfarads at the beginning of my career. So you move to electrical, and I was in electrical for a long time. And what happened was I had been doing the media buying and running marketing for a series of companies, including Masterbolt and their parent company. And contributing to a magazine and buying media in a magazine, and the publisher was about to retire. And he came to me and said, "Are you interested?" And I was at the end of what I saw my run at one of the manufacturing companies. I was working for a large RV manufacturer that had wanted to come into the marine industry, and spent a couple of years there. But I really thought I had done what I needed to do. So I said, "All right, well, tell me about the job." And at the same time, a dear friend of mine had passed away, and I thought, you know what? It's time to have a job where I have laptop, have phone, can travel.
Yeah.
And the combination of, looking for something new, being able to try something new that was still within marine, but was something that I'd never done before, that would use that artistic talent, and that would allow me to be mobile, was really interesting. And I basically had four pillars that I was looking at when I was looking for a job. I wanted to be creative. I wanted to lead a team. I wanted to travel globally, and I wanted to give back to the industry. The industry is really important to me. I've been on a number of different boards, but to me, the job with the media was an opportunity to move the conversation, to steer that conversation in different ways. And that was really attractive. And that's why I went for it.
Now, let me ask you, I mean, you do deal mainly with the boating industry. You do dabble a bit, of course, because yachting and boating they sort of go hand in hand. Did you find that in your position as a female that you had to work a little bit harder to be taken seriously?
So I was in electrical, where it was, I mean, you could count on one hand or less the
Yeah.
women. I was dealing mainly with electrical engineers or heads of company. The nice thing is, because I was part of the NMMA board of directors and ABYC's board of directors, I started to gain more credibility in terms of my knowledge base. And I had some great mentors and teachers that taught me about electrical. And the bad behavior in terms of male, female, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And what I learned is the one thing that you can control is the way that you react to it. And if you can do it with grace, and I also find if you do it with humor, that it tends to break the interaction in a more positive way.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it all happens, but it's how you handle it.
for sure. Well, and I like your suggestion of handling it with a bit of humor, because I think, doing it that way takes what could have been an otherwise uncomfortable situation and sort of turns it on its head, and you're able to carry on with a bit of laughter, as opposed to that awkward silence that sometimes, if you call someone on something and you're serious about it, it becomes awkward and it creates a space. Whereas you laugh about it, you address the behavior, and you can carry on right away.
Absolutely.
So tell me about Sounding Straight Only. What is the magazine, and what do you focus on, and what are you all about?
So we are the #1 trade magazine in North America for recreational boating. The magazine has been around for 42 years now, and it's known for great journalism, and it's a global magazine. So there are a number of our readers that are international as well. We do a monthly magazine. There's a daily e-newsletter, and there's a website. And they're really integrated together in the way that we use them. So the media all mixes together. If you go to an article on the e-news and you click on the teaser that's there, you wind up on the website. And what we really try to do, the mission of the magazine, is to reflect the industry back to itself, to inform the industry on what's happening, and to inspire. So what's the look forward? What's going on from the greater business community? I like to look outside of the bubble. I think we get too lost in staying within this marine bubble, where we don't look at the greater business community in a more meaningful way. And for instance, last year we had the global ambassador for B corporations come on and do a session with 2 marine related companies that are B Corps. And the vast majority of the industries that I spoke to, marine businesses, a lot of them didn't even know what a B Corp was. So bringing that kind of inspiration or talking to the way that companies are working with universities like MIT on the newest technology for boating, if you can inspire people to move forward, that's what we like to do. And if I look at our magazine, I would tell you it's a mix of the marine industry, the business industry, and the technology industry. So a combination of wired, fast company, and a marine industry all in one. And we do it in different ways. I mean, you saw we had the largest women's event in the history of the industry recently, which was amazing. Close to 400.
And you do those every 6 months, correct?
Sorry?
You do those every 6 months, correct?
Yeah, well, it was the first one, but we're now going to start doing some Facebook Lives on a quarterly basis, and we'll do a virtual breakfast again in December. And then we have some big news coming in 22, and when it's released, I will let you know. But the first Facebook Live event will happen the second week of September, so I'll send you some information. It's either September 8th or 9th. I'll look it up for you.
Yeah, well, sign me up.
We've got roundtable panels. We're doing a leadership summit at the end of September with an amazing executive leader from outside of the industry. He was the CEO of Polyplanar, Planar Systems, and just a phenomenal leader within the business community that's going to come in and do a half-day event. And then we have an all-star industry panel with the president of Volvo Penta Americas, the president of One ASG, which is a part of Brunswick, and the president of Siren Marine. So it's a who's who of the industry. And Dr. Balaji Krishnamurthy, who's our speaker, will be moderating the panel. So he'll give you this information on intentional leadership and building corporate culture and workforce, and then these industry leaders will bring it to how they implement it within their own businesses within the marine space. So I think that's going to be really exciting. So those are some of the things that we do that make our brand unique.
Well, one of the things that I find very interesting is that in the yachting industry, we tend to forget about the boating industry. Now, I was speaking to someone a while back, and they were saying, in our combined industries, it's like a pyramid, and everybody starts at boating. That's where we start. And if they don't start in boating, they won't ever make it to the yachting top of the pyramid as far as the bigger the boat. But we tend to forget that if we're looking forward in business, if we're looking to be in business 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, we have to start hitting the boating market. If you are in yachting, if you're looking to sell yourself a 110-meter yacht, well, maybe you should start planting that seed in the boating industry first before, 10 years down the road, if you want to end up selling yourself a super yacht. But it's just not happening. Do you know why that is?
I have no idea why that is, but I would say that the businesses that I know that are on the yachting side and on the boating side, in terms of the businesses, there are similar challenges and similar concerns. We're dealing with transparency. We're dealing with environmental issues. We're dealing with sustainability. We're dealing with end of life cycle of the vessel. And every one of the yachts has a tender, which is from the recreational boating industry. So there's a mix of the two that are happening regardless. They're so tied together. They are adjacent markets. Yeah. The difference is that the way that things are manufactured, and one is almost couture and the other is bespoke. You've got something that is so customized that might take 3 or 4 years to build, whereas someone else might be building 300 boats a year.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that was coming out of the U.S. last year was that there they were scrambling to find parts to build boats. I mean, it literally had come to a standstill in the entire US as far as building boats and people being able to buy new boats. It was just impossible.
Well, what happened was we in the US, the businesses really shut down for just about 2 months, April, May of last year, I would say. And then they started to reopen. And as they started to reopen, and people realized, one, they weren't ever going to travel that year. Two, all of the kids' sports that they played and went to camp, all of that was canceled. And you had to socially distance. So if you were trying to do all of that and still make memories as a family, boating was a great option. So the boating market skyrocketed starting probably May, June of last year. So you've got companies that were shut down, that were component suppliers. And don't forget, all of this happened also right around Chinese New Year. So you had Asian companies that were shut down for weeks for Chinese New Year, and then COVID hit. So they were already behind. So all of that was happening. And then beyond the need coming back up and coming up higher, the demand on boats made it higher than it's ever been before. So if you're a boat company that all of a sudden everything's sold, you've got 25 to 30% more sold than ever before. And the component companies are ramping back up, but not at the stage that you need them to. And it's not even, some of the component companies were locked in the middle because they were getting components for the components from Asia, Mexico, and India, other areas that were really hard hit by COVID, where it was just really, really hard to get. I mean, we all know about what happened with the semiconductor industry, but there are other parts of the parts that were affected as well. And I think that's also why it's still lagging, because the demand is just so high. The opportunity to catch up has been really, really hindered. It's not like they came up to the same level as they had before. And you've got the aftermarket because used boats so well as also.
Yeah. What do you see for the future? Do you think that boat sales will continue to grow as they have, exponentially in the last year and a half? Do you think that we're going to see an increase straight across the face of the planet of boat sales and yacht sales, with people realizing that, I think what highlighted for us, especially during the pandemic, is it's possible to work, but work remotely. And that was something that so many people didn't realize before. And now that we've all sort of clued into that fact, are we going to see an increase that continues to rise?
Well, I think there were learnings from the pandemic beyond just, how important family is, just people wanting to spend more time together. And I think that feeling will stay. I think people are still wary about traveling, especially now with some of the variants that we're hearing about. So boat sales will continue. A lot of the boat sales, I think, will continue for the next few years. But we have to be diligent about it. We have to promote our industry to different ethnicities across the board. We also have to take care of those new boaters, and not in a condescending way, but in an embracing way, a way that they've now become part of this club and we're going to take care of them. We have a shortage of service technicians here in the States. So that's a problem for us, because you want to make sure that if there is a problem with a boat that they purchased, that they get back on the water quickly. So I think we have to service those people. We have to embrace those people. I like all of the boat clubs because it gives people an opportunity to come in. And if you know what's going on with the younger generations, is they're very experienced focused rather than ownership focused. So if we can get them on the water through clubs, and as they mature into it, maybe it's something that they share with friends, but they decide to buy, there's an opportunity there to promote our industry in new and different ways. I also think that technology is going to play a huge role in the future of the industry, because people are going to expect the same kind of comforts that they have and technologies that they have in their cars, in their homes, on their boats. They're going to want an OnStar style system. where they get notifications if their short cord is removed, if they have low battery power, if there's, if they have to have their engines checked, they've reached a certain amount of miles or kilometers where they need to have the engine serviced. Those kinds of things where it's all technology based and app based, or where you can, from the convenience of your office, turn on the battery switches, turn on the fridge so that the beer is cold by the time you get to the boat. All of those things are going to become part of what we do. And all of the auto assist that you see now on cars, automatic parking and such, we're starting to see it with auto docking. And that trend in autonomy will also continue.
So do you think the industry is really going purely electronic? Like, I know that, and when it comes to media as well, do you think that in 5 years from now, there's going to be a place for like paper magazines, that sort of thing? Or do you think that we are heading so quickly into the electronic age that that kind of thing is going to be a thing of the past and it's going to be online magazines, et cetera?
So I still read paper magazines. They're all over my house. I just like the tactile feel.
Yeah.
And I think there's a reason why Amazon opened bookstores, because there's a tactile feeling to actually holding a magazine and seeing it print. I don't think that's ever going to go away, especially in a niche industry like the marine industry. However, the younger generations are using tablets and they are using phones. Phones, I think, will outweigh tablets in the future. So what I think about constantly is, how do people want to consume media? Because the way that they consume that media is changing and attention spans are changing. Yes. When I first started with Soundings Trade Only, the articles were 3 and 4 pages long. It was almost like you got the main course of a meal, but there was no appetizer and no dessert. Yeah. So we now offer a variety of short form and long form articles that appeal to different generations. And I think that magazines are going to have to do that. I also think the way that you consume content, whether it's through video journalism, it's through the kind of podcast style that you and I are doing now, a visual type podcast, or through audio, all of that is going to evolve. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to have this menu of how you consume media. And it's staying ahead of the platforms and the way that consumption will happen. That is the constant challenge. And it's something that we are constantly thinking about. And for me, I'm constantly thinking about, I come from the component side and the boat side. So if I were promoting the product, what is the best return on investment for my dollars? Yeah. How would I be spending those dollars? And I would not come out with a product that I wouldn't buy myself. Yeah. So for instance, this spring, there were no boat shows in the US in the spring until Palm Beach in March. Yeah. So I thought, well, February at Miami is when everybody really comes in with what they're going to introduce for spring. So we wound up doing a round robin lunch and learn from noon to 1, where everybody had 5 minutes to pitch their new products. It was one after the other, after the other, after the other. So if one product didn't interest someone, 5 minutes later, it was something new. We had 19 companies in 2 days pitch new products. And it was everything from engines to cleaners to bow thrusters. It went across the board. We had 550 engineers, purchasing agents, owners of companies, senior leadership, all on the line. That to me was a great return on investment. And to hear from a company that they heard from an original equipment manufacturer afterwards, and they said, we didn't know you made this. Can you send us samples? Well, to me, then I did my job, because we created something that then got their message out and got them new business that they didn't have before.
Well, do you know what? Something that I am seeing is that, and what I'm really feeling for the industry as a whole, boating and yachting, is that a new hybrid form of marketing is coming into play. And if you aren't doing that hybrid, like you said, you're doing the networking you're doing, and as well, you're working with Ben Taylor in doing the international networking events every month. Things like that are expanding. And I think, yes, you've got your magazine, but you also do a very, very smart way of making that magazine interact with your website, and you're bringing it along. And I think in the future, even boat shows are going to have that hybrid component and make sure that it is available in every format and around the world. But yet they still want the old fashioned meet and greet, everyone meets in the same place and feet on the ground kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see how the industry sort of progress into the future.
It will. I think what the shows learned last year, first of all, there's nothing that replaces face-to-face interaction.
Yeah.
There's that nuanced body language, that opportunity to get things done quickly that doesn't happen when you're not face-to-face. However, the upside of the virtual interactions is that people that weren't going to the shows before, so, let's take a show like Met. They might take 2 or 3 people from their company that are purchasing and senior leadership, but the people that are lower down or younger in the company in their journey, they don't have the opportunity to go because there's a cost involved. But if it's virtual, the opportunity for them to get on, learn, interact with other people was vital. So I think that hybrid of allowing people that would never have the opportunity to come into a show is the reason why you will see more hybrid. And I follow a marketer named Otto Bell, who runs Courageous, which is the agency that's part of Warner Media. And he always says an event is, it's video content waiting to be had. So I think that filming of the events that we have and using them in really creative ways is going to be part of the future, along with making the buying journey easier. Yeah. So we do a lot of social media marketing. That's also part of our portfolio. I mean, it's anyone that's connected with us within the last 6 months, we can serve social ads into, and they're highly effective. But as a retailer, to highlight a couple of different products and you can click on that product and it goes immediately to putting it in a shopping cart for you, where you've just taken out, you saw the product, you have to go to their website, you have to then click on the product and then go to the shopping cart, to erase all of those steps and go from seeing it on social to having it be in a cart where all that you're doing is putting in where you're shipping to and your credit card number. Yeah. That just made the customer journey much more condensed and compact in a new way of using media, and a way where return on investment makes the cost of spend on the media really neutral.
Well, and once again, that goes back to attention span, what you were saying earlier. The fact is, if you take out all those steps, because some people, they'll see something they want, and especially the newer generations, they get halfway through the process and they're bored and they give up. Whereas if you make it so much simpler, the fact is, one click, boom, it's done. They're not going to give up because it's done, it's finished, and they've got what they want. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting future for sure. Michele, I am going to say thank you ever so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Rhea. As ever, pleasure to be with you.
Well, and I will have you back because I have a feeling there's many more exciting things to come, and I would love to be able to help you spread the message.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
No, my pleasure. Once again, this has been Michele Goldsmith of Soundings Trade Only. We will provide all of the details of not only the magazine, the online version of the magazine, and Michele herself, if you want to contact her via LinkedIn, underneath this interview when it airs. We thank you for watching. My name is Rhea. I have been your host. We'll see you again next time.